My name is Tammy Daniels, and welcome to the iBerkshires.com download. 5 days into the new year in 2018, Krista Steele Nudslin was beaten and stabbed to death, and her husband charged with murder. This sent shockwaves through the community of North Adams, where she had become a recent resident. In the wake of her death, the community has come together to find ways to address the problems of domestic violence, including the Northern Berkshire Community Coalition, the City Council, the Elizabeth Freeman Center. Out of those discussions, a new organization, Men Initiating Change, emerged. And with us today, we have Benjamin Lamb, one of the founders of that group. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Tammy. Good to be here.
Good. And I'd like to ask you about what prompted this particular organization?
Sure. So as you noted, kind of the timeline of how things played out in North Adams. So myself and Councilor Harpin brought a paper forward to City Council early in the year, right after Krista's murder. And from that point, we worked with the Northern Berkshire Community Coalition to facilitate a forum. So they have monthly forums that they host, as we know. And in that forum, we actually did breakout groups to talk about what different groups of people can actually do to help combat this issue in our region. And one of those groups was focused on what can men do? What role can they play? And so through that conversation and aggregating some information from people that were around that group, we really realized that there was a need, a want, and an opportunity to actually create an organization that could actually come together on the regular and take steps in whatever way, shape, or form possible to work on this effort.
It's really interesting because a lot of the focus on domestic violence has been providing support for the victims, shelters, safe places, access to support services, to legal help, bringing in the police. And this is a different way of approaching it by saying, and we don't want to, not all men, right? But 95% of domestic violence is perpetrated by the men in women's lives.
Right.
So this is really going to some of the root causes, right, of what we're seeing with domestic violence.
Absolutely.
So what is your group? What is their sort of goal, their purpose?
So the biggest thing for this group is that a lot of individuals don't necessarily know how they can play a part in combating domestic and relational violence. It's just there's not necessarily an obvious pathway for them to do so. And when it comes to this group, we really look at it as we're a bunch of dudes, and we've got this privilege that comes along with being dudes, and we want to make sure that we're able to leverage that privilege and our roles in the community to showcase what men should be doing, to role model it for both our peers, but then also kids. We see this as an opportunity and a need for positive role modeling rather than always saying what you don't do, but actually showcasing what you do. And so that's really kind of the approach that we've taken to most of our steps so far. And
I've noticed you've been running a campaign on Facebook.
Yep.
How did that advertising idea come out?
So one of the challenges is that a lot of the individuals that want to be in this group and want to be around the table are really busy. They're the ones that are at all the meetings. They all have families or responsibilities outside of work and their household. And so having people come to meetings is a little bit challenging. But all of these folks that want to be engaged still are trying to find ways to slot in. And what we realized at a meeting back in February, I think it was, of this year, was that there was an opportunity to have a broader impact and to actually get in front of people and to tell this narrative story about what men can do. And figuring that a photo campaign was a great way to do that. There's other photo campaigns out there that have been run not necessarily on this topic, but you see kind of the impact and how they get in front of people, and then they're kind of evergreen. They stay out there. They continue to represent that positive story and what can be done and how people can make a positive influence in their community.
And who are some of the people that have been involved with this? I know some of them, but
I know you
tell me.
So I believe we've had 9 people get photographed so far, and we're planning on a second batch. But former Mayor Alcombright, Kiefer Gamel from Mass MoCA, Griffin LaBance from MCLA, myself, Councilor Moran, Councilor LaForest were all in it as well, and Dave Bond, who's a former city councilor. And so we've got it's kind of a very diverse group of people in terms of what our backgrounds and our histories are, and some are permanent residents that have always lived in North Adams, some are new folks that have transplanted here over time, but really trying to showcase that anybody and everybody has a role to play here.
And what are some of the modeling that you're hoping to put out there?
So the big thing that we've kind of seen going towards is being willing to have the conversation, being willing to call out when something is not right. So often, I think people are silent because they don't necessarily know what to do. And one of our biggest statements is that, silence is basically approval of what people are doing, good, bad, or ugly. And so a lot of the stories and approaches that these guys are taking in their own lives show that you do need to step up. You need to create space where you can actually have conversations and call out instances and individuals when they're not acting appropriately or when there's symptoms of a larger issue at hand. But on also, what are we modeling for our kids? Like I said, a number of us have our families, and we want to make sure that we're modeling positive behaviors for them and also their friend groups so that they can see what are the actions that I should be taking from now until I'm an adult and beyond to actually be a healthy part of this community and have healthy relationships.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting take, too, because I believe it was a beer commercial. Yeah, it was the beer commercial. There have been several sort of controversial commercials lately. It was the beer commercial that was trying to do some sort of role modeling with it, and there was a huge pushback from certain sectors about, beer companies shouldn't be concerned about that.
Right.
But alcohol plays a part.
Yep.
In domestic violence. We all know that there are problems with substance abuse and sometimes with both partners as well.
Yeah.
That can lead to unfortunate circumstances where where they don't know how to sort of relate to each other.
Right. It's a multiplier effect that you end up with.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how many people have been involved in your group so far?
So, if you look at kind of the full spectrum from when we started with the forum until now, there's a core group of about 5 of us that are always, engaged and getting together and making things happen. But then we also have, people that come in and out as they are available. And, that's one of the things that we're really open about is we want people to enter at whatever point that they feel comfortable and able to do so. So we've had people that have just come to standouts that we've hosted at City Hall or just participated in our Walk a Mile in Our Shoes event last year, which we're doing again this year.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. So collectively, there's probably about 30 people that are kind of have either come in and out or have been consistently there.
It's a fairly large group when you consider, Northern Berkshire.
Absolutely, for a small
Right.
region, yeah.
And this is Northern Berkshire, so you have people coming from Cheshire, Lanesboro, Williamstown.
We got Williamstown, Adams, North Adams primarily, Clarksburg, Florida. I don't know that we've had anyone from Lanesboro, Cheshire, but everyone is welcome. That's one thing that we really try to make clear.
And you, as we talked about, the Walk a Mile in Our Shoes event that's done every year as part of Third Thursday now up here in Pittsfield. And you had a pretty large group that walked last year. We covered it, And so you're hoping to have a good turnout again this year?
Our goal is to be larger and to raise more money. Last year we raised almost $500. This year we're targeting $1,500. So.
And this goes to the
Elizabeth Freeman Center. Yeah, who's been an incredible support mechanism for the group getting off the ground. We really partner heavily with them in this because we are not experts in this. We know that we're not, and we're not going to pretend that we are. So making sure to engage with the folks that are the experts has been key.
And in talks with people in the community, I mean, have you been, how are you raising awareness that this group exists other than some of the Facebook posts and things that I've seen?
We're still in the Berkshires, and face-to-face interactions is sometimes the most powerful mechanism we've got. And so a lot of one-on-one conversations with people, mentioning it in group dialogues, and just making sure that people know this is the available opportunity for them. That approach of invite a friend, right? So if you are coming to a meeting, just invite a friend to come along. Whether they've been involved or heard about us or not, have them come along. And I would say, in the last month and a half, we've seen our Facebook kind of following double just in terms of how many people are paying attention. So I think that that's really important. But also, anybody who's looking at the images and is seeing that as an opportunity for something to model is engaging in this and hopefully is then able to implement those same sorts of actions into their own lives.
Yeah. And so the idea of you have people that people know who are standing up and, they're being used to spread a message.
Yeah, I think
that engages people more.
Yeah, especially the first group. Like a lot of people recognize the people they see in those images. A lot of people are friends with them, so it gets heavier sharing. We've had over 10,000 kind of interactions with those photos so far, so that's really positive for us to see with no financial investment in actually rolling that out. That's just organic. But I would also say, just because you're not someone who's a public figure doesn't mean that this isn't a campaign to participate in. You're making a difference in your own household, in your own family. family in your own life. So you should also be, showcasing what you're doing that's doing the job well.
Okay. And anybody interested in joining or interacting with your group or finding out more can find you through the Facebook page?
Yep, Facebook page, and our email is on there. I'm not going to remember it off the top of my head right now, but it's on our Facebook page.
We'll put it up. We have it right here, and we'll let everybody know
Perfect.
where it is. And thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's been a good conversation.
Yeah, great to be here.
Thanks.